Okay, so Hare Krishna, everybody. So let's start this. Just a moment. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakayam Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Nara Narayana Rishis, the supermost human beings, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktir bhavatir naishtuki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Nigamakalpatarorgalitam phalam sukamukharamritadrava samyudam vibhata bhagavatam rasam alayam muhur ahur rasika bhuri bhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad-Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Gosvami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajamalini Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajandre. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vigna Vinashana Simhaiti Namini. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasyati Desatari. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langahitim Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram Om Tat Sat. So Hare Krishna everyone. Welcome back to our last part on the last chapter, the last class for the Srimad-Bhagavatam. This is for Canto 1 and this is chapter 19, the appearance of Sukadeva Goswami. So previously we have gone through the first 20 or so verses, and here we are talking about, it began with verses 1 to 7, where Parikshit Maharaj is preparing for death. So we heard how after the cursing by Shringi for Parikshit Maharaj to die being bitten by the snake bird Takshaka in 7 days, Parikshit Maharaj, he repented the situation. He took a very humble position, although he was very much qualified to counteract the curse. And although he is known as Vishnu Ratha, one who is protected by the Lord himself, still he took this to be as a sign, as a part of providence, which is the plan of the Lord. And in this way, he renounced his kingdom, he renounced his family, he went to the river, the Ganges River, and then Yamuna actually. And then over there, he decided to sit and fast until death. And while he was doing this, we heard how the sages all over the universe, from the highest planets, from every direction of the universe, all the great sages congregated in these banks of the river, where Parikshit Maharaj was sitting there waiting. And when the sages congregated, so these were of the highest caliber of sages. We had Narada Muni, we had Vyasadev, we had Devala, Atri, the 7 Saptarishis, all the great personalities, including the Devatas, and many of those who are very exalted in spirituality. So they were all congregating in this place. And we also heard how Maharaj Parikshit received all of them. So we heard a bit of etiquette on how to receive exalted guests. So he prostrated his obeisances, his head touched the floor, and in this way he received them with sweet words and glorification. And then Maharaj Parikshit, after that, he took blessings from the sages. So he told them what he was going to do. And then, though he was very fixed in his determination, nevertheless, he was anxious to receive their blessings. So this is the way shown by example of Maharaj Parikshit, how one should behave and how one should actually execute one's even spiritual activities. It's by the blessings of various devotees. So we stopped at verse 21. So we will continue with verse 22. All that was spoken by the great sages was very sweet, madhu, to hear. So the sages, after hearing Parikshit Maharaj speak, we heard last session how the sages they were giving their blessings. We heard how the Devatas showered flowers upon Parikshit Maharaj. The moment Parikshit Maharaj told them about his desire to fast till death, and they all gave their blessings. Yes, yes, very good, you fast till death, and we will all wait with you. So to sit with you, and because they already knew what was going to happen, they knew this was the setting of the scene for the Srimad-Bhagavatam to be spoken, the topmost of all scriptures. So because of that, they had dropped everything they were doing and just all of them congregated waiting for this to happen. And they also told Parikshit Maharaj, yes, your decision is the best decision. It is definitely without any fault in it. So in this way, they were also encouraging Parikshit Maharaj. And therefore, this verse continues from where it left off. All that was spoken by the great sages was very sweet to hear, full of meaning and appropriately presented as perfectly true. Avyalikam, that means perfectly true. So that is how we receive words from scripture and from Guru. So we accept them as perfectly true. And after hearing them, Maharaj Parikshit, desiring to hear the Charitani Vishnu, that means the activities of Vishnu. Just like we know Chaitanya Charitamrita, Charita means activities, the stories of the activities of Vishnu. So Parikshit Maharaj had this great desire to hear more and more. So he was a very exemplary person. Just before the time of death, he's showing everyone how one should be hearing and concentrating fully in the glorifications of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And then he congratulated the great sages he glorified them. And then this wonderful verse was spoken. Samagataha sarvata eva sarve veda yata murtidara striprishte nehatana mutra cha kaschanartha rite paranugraham atmashilam. The king said, O great sages, you have all very kindly assembled here, having come from all parts of the universe. So we can understand that this is a momentous situation that's about to happen in the history of this creation, where all the sages from not only the world, this is from the universe, from the topmost planets of Satya Loka, from every direction, within these three worlds, all of them have congregated for a very momentous situation, occurrence. So why is this occurrence momentous? Because we discussed this previously in the previous session, because it's not just any passing. It is the passing of a Maha-Bhagavata devotee who was not just simply going back to the spiritual world. This is, of course, that is a great thing. For someone to go back to the spiritual world is a great thing. But Maharaj Parikshit is going back not only to the spiritual world, he was going directly to the topmost planet in the spiritual world, to Goloka Vrindavan. So that is very, very rare. It is not ordinary. So that's first reason. Second reason is because of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the cream of all Vedic scriptures, is to be presented. So that's the reason they all congregated. Twofold reasons. So then Maharaj Parikshit continues. Veda yata murti dhara stri prishte. So he tells them, you sages, you are all as good as supreme knowledge personified. So imagine that of all knowledge in this world, jnana, the supreme most knowledge, parajnana. So that supreme knowledge, if it were to take the form of a human being, if it's to be personified, then that personification of knowledge are all of you. So he is glorifying the sages in such a way that you are the absolute personification of spiritual knowledge, supreme knowledge. And this is true because it is described elsewhere that Brahm, and here he's saying where they came from, who resides in the planet above the three worlds. Now, what is this planet above the three worlds? So this usually we hear the three worlds, right? The three worlds refer to Bhu, Bhuvar, and Swarga. So it's not just three worlds. Bhu is an entire set of planetary systems, which include the Bhu Mandal and also the Bilva Surgas. That means the lower planetary systems, such as Atala, Vitala, Patala, and all of that, including Earth up to the surface of Bhu Mandala. That is called Bhu, the entire dimensions of the Bhu Mandal. And then above Bhu Mandal is Bhuvar Loka, which is the heavenly planets. It is very, the Pitru Loka, the Gandharva Loka, the Charana Loka, all these different heavenly planets, the Siddha Lokas, all these places are in the Bhuvar Loka. It's a place of great enjoyment, pleasure. And above Bhuvar Loka, there are many planetary systems within that. And above Bhuvar Loka is Swarga Loka. So it's and Swar. So it's Bhu, Bhuvar, and Swar. So Swar not only consists of Swarga Loka, it consists of all the other planetary systems above Swarga Loka, which include what are the names? Jana Loka, Tapo Loka, Mahar Loka, the higher planetary systems above Swarga. So this is also part of Swar. So the highest amongst these three, these are the three worlds. These are the three, we could say, dimensions of planetary systems. You could classify them in this way: Bhu, Bhuvar, Swar. So and highest planet, which is considered beyond even Swarg, is what is called Satya Loka, or the planet of Brahma. So in Satya Loka, it's described that Lord Brahma's body, like our bodies, is made up of 5 material elements, isn't it? Earth, water, fire, air, ether. That's the gross material elements. And then we also have the 3 subtle elements, which is the mind, intelligence, and false ego. So it's described that in Satya Loka, the bodies of those people in Satya Loka, including Brahma, it's made up of mostly, there are no gross material elements. It's very few. So one could say 90% plus is made up of one single element, and that is called intelligence. So imagine your whole body is made up of intelligence. So these are the type of people who live in Swargaloka. And Brahma is the chief amongst them. And these sages, some of them, they reside there also. So therefore, Parikshit Maharaj is glorifying them. You who are supreme knowledge personified, because your whole body is made up of intelligence. And you reside in these planets above the 3 worlds. And then he says, Rite Paranugraham Atma Shilam. He says, you sages, consequently, because you are supreme knowledge personified, you are naturally inclined to do good to others. So this is the sign of knowledge. One is free of envy. When one has knowledge, one no longer needs to feel envy, because he understands everything that happens to everyone is already preordained by karma. So there's no reason to feel envy of anybody, because they're simply getting what they are supposed to get anyway. So that supreme knowledge and understanding the supreme goal of life. So therefore, they are naturally inclined to do good to others. They are free of envy. So he's saying, but for this, you have no other interest. So they are simply there traveling across the different planetary systems, simply trying to do good to others. And they have no interest either in this life or in the next. So this is the caliber of the type of audience who are about to receive Srimad-Bhagavatam. So we have different scriptures which have been spoken to different classes of people in this world. We have scriptures in the 3 modes, right? Mode of passion, mode of ignorance, mode of goodness. So sometimes scripture or spiritual knowledge is given to people according to the capacity of the audience. It's given according to time, place, circumstances, and circumstances here also refer to the ability of the audience to digest the information or to accept the information without fear of rejection. So that's why, you know, in desert areas, like, you know, in 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, in the Saudi Arabian desert, it's not possible to give very high knowledge, because the type of people who live there are very, very sinful. So for them to digest very high knowledge is not possible. So different sets of knowledge, which was tempered according to the 3 modes, were given to these people. And slowly, nuggets of true supreme knowledge is there, found here and there, nuggets of it. And with that, they will be led towards a higher position. But here, you can see the type of caliber of people who are receiving the Srimad-Bhagavatam, the highest personalities. So then the verse continues, 24. O trustworthy Brahmanas, I now ask you about my immediate duty. Please, after proper deliberation, tell me of the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically of those who are just about to die. So when we say dharma or duty, there are different types of dharma. There is broadly categorized into 2 types. One is called temporary dharma, and one is called eternal dharma. So eternal dharma refers to the dharma of the soul. Just like as we know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has revealed to us, Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. The eternal dharma of the soul is to be the eternal loving servant of the Supreme Lord Krishna. But because of illusion, because of false ego, and because of our tendency to enjoy separate from Krishna, we have come to this material world. And here we have taken various roles according to our proclivity, according to our desire, and according to our karma. We have taken various roles in this material creation. So each of these roles carry with it a set of duties. So these are called temporary dharma, and which is basically our fruitive dharma. So like, for example, we are husband or father or mother or sister or teacher or whatever. So this is temporary dharma as per that particular body. But even there also, there is set of regular temporary dharma, and there is also a set of emergency temporary dharma. So like that, there are different gradients of dharma. So here, Parikshit Maharaj is asking, please tell me my immediate duty, because I'm going to die. So tell me what's the best thing that I can do. So my ultimate duty. And then also he says, tell me also of that particular duty, that unalloyed duty for everyone in all circumstances. So this is, he's referring to that spiritual dharma that is beyond ego, beyond temporary designations, which is pertaining to the soul. So nice verse. Tatascha ya pracham imam vipriche vishrabhya vipra iti kritayatayam sarvatmanam riyamanascha krityam suddham cha tatram sata viyuktaha. So Prabhupada says, he gives his purport, the question relating to dying man is most important because everyone is a dying man, either very shortly or after 100 years. So the point is, this is the most important duty. If we do everything else and we miss this particular aspect of duty, so then it's a complete waste of this human existence. So Prabhupada says, for transcendental realization or self-realization, many processes are recommended by various classes of philosophers. So, for example, the moment we talk about transcendence, broadly, you can categorize transcendence into two parts. When we say yoga is the path of transcendence. It can be falling into two parts. One is the path of jnana, which is basically starting from karma yoga, then jnana yoga, then dhyana yogas, which is described in the Bhagavad Gita. And the other one, which is the main point, which is described in the Bhagavad Gita also, is bhakti yoga, the science of surrender, bhakti marga, or pushti marga, the path of surrender. So under these two main umbrella of transcendental activity, right? There are many branches. So for example, under jnana itself, there is, the school, the various 6 saddarshanas. For example, there's Sankhya philosophy, and then there is Mimamsa philosophy, Karma Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa, and then there is Jnana philosophy by Gautam, and then like that, there are different branches of philosophy, which is categorized as transcendence also. But these are meant, for different proclivity, different people of different inclinations. So therefore, Prabhupada says, for transcendental realization or self-realization, many processes are recommended by various classes. Some of them are first-class methods. Some of them are second or third-class methods. So therefore, Parikshit Maharaj is asking, he already knew, because he's Vishnu Datta and he's Mahabhagavata, and he comes from the lineage of the Pandavas, and he had direct blessings of all the great sages. He already knows. He was already a great devotee of the Lord in the path of bhakti. But nevertheless, in such an assembly of august sages who have come from all over the universe, he is clearly asking, so that there is no, people sometimes say, oh, the Hindu scriptures, so many things, so many parts, so much of confusion. Why can't there be one? Why can't there be one? So people like to ask this question. Actually, that's simply because of ignorance. If they have bothered to understand the goal of the the Vedic scriptures, then this question would not arise. It only arises because of ignorance, because they do not know. So it is given, and there is no confusion. The direct path, the supreme most dharma for all the living entities is given. Here we can see here from the Bhagavatam. So in the August assembly of all these sages, Parikshit Maharaj is asking, just for the sake of all these people who will ask this question. So he wants to clearly get a perfect answer, which will be free of all kinds of speculation or confusion. A clear, direct answer. What is the best thing to do for a person who's going to die? And the best duty for everyone. So therefore, we can understand, actually, this point, we can see, if you look at the Vedic scriptures have the 4 Vedas, and then, you know, there are many branches. You can consider the scriptures like to be like a tree, a desire tree. So in all these three, there are so many different aspects. There's the Upanishads, there's the Puranas, there's the Dharma Shastras, the Itihasas, like Mahabharata, so many different branches of knowledge, which is able to give anything one desires in this world. That is the Vedic tree. But the most important part of the Vedic tree, the essence of this Vedic tree, are 2 things, which is the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is called Gita Upanishad, and Shankaracharya in his Gita Mahatmya, he glorifies Bhagavad Gita as the essence of all the Vedic scriptures. He says, if the Upanishads are like the cow, the milk of the cow is the Bhagavad Gita. So the Upanishads are considered the cream of the Vedas. And if the cream of the Vedas is if the Upanishad is like the cow, the milk of that cow is the Bhagavad Gita. So that is one description of Bhagavad Gita. So let's see what Bhagavad Gita says. What's the last word of Bhagavad Gita? So we can just read here. This is Krishna's. Now, if we see what is Krishna's second last instruction, I will come to the last instruction also, but I just wanted to also point out Krishna's second, he gave so many instructions to Arjuna, right? But his second last instruction is always think of me. You know that famous verse, Manmana Baba Mat Bhakto Mat Yaji Mam Namaskuru Mam Evaisyasi Satyam Te Pratijano Priyosive. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are a very dear friend. So Krishna is telling the second last instruction. He is telling Arjuna, be my devotee by hook or by crook. Leave everything else aside. So whatever, throw it all away, but become my devotee. Because when you become my devotee, you will become attached to me and you will think of me and then you will come to me. And then he also gives a very brief understanding of how to be his devotee. So he says, worship me. Devotee means what? Devotee means worship Krishna. So we can do arati, we can do prayers, we can celebrate the festivals of Krishna. And then he says, offer your homage unto me. So that means we can dandavat to the Lord. At least, you know, put our head down and bow to the Lord. Offer our food to the Lord. Offer everything that we have to the Lord. Thus, in this way, for sure, because he promises, you will come to me without fail. And the last instruction of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. So he says, all right, never mind, don't worry about the do's and don'ts, just forget about everything. Just go, put your goal on completely just surrendering unto me. So, you know, Sarva Dharman Parityagya, Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja, Aham Tam Sarva Papebhyo, Muksha Vishami Masuchaha. I will deliver you from everything, don't fear. So that's his absolute last instruction. Instruction, not verse. He gives after that opinions and all that, but this is the last instruction he gives to Krishna, to Arjuna. And the very last verse of Bhagavad Gita, this essence of all Vedic literature, this essence of the Vedas, look at the last instruction. You know, the last instructions are usually important because when we say key takeaways. If you can't remember everything else, remember at least these things. So this is basically the power of the last instruction. Even when a person dies, the last thing he says is actually very important. So, and it's even used in the court of law as evidence. So Krishna's last instruction. And then the last verse of the Gita. What is the last verse of the Gita? So the last verse of the Gita was Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, right? Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. So here, Krishna is to be the ultimate goal of life. We can understand. This is the last verse of the Gita, which is the essence of the Upanishads. So how much clearer can it get? And yet people can still say that, oh, it is Hinduism has too many scriptures. We cannot, too many paths. The paths are there because not everybody can surrender. Not everybody can follow the path of bhakti because the path of bhakti requires a very great sacrifice. The very great sacrifice is that one must be willing and ready to bow down his head and to the lotus feet of Krishna and call Krishna Lord and Master. So this one, not many people can do. Majority cannot do. We will be surprised. I was surprised. Recently, I went back also to eat with my family, and I met some people like that, my own family members, who just couldn't accept that there is a Lord and Master who is above them. So this is true majority of the world because the false ego is very strong. They cannot give in. That's why it's called the path of surrender. So for these people, Krishna tricks them by giving them the path of jnana, because there you don't have to surrender. You just have to, do it with our own strength. But still, nevertheless, it brings one to the path of surrender ultimately. So that's the Krishna's tricky way to get people to surrender. So that's the thing. And if you look at Bhagavatam, the other essence of all Vedic literature, which is basically, it begins where Bhagavad Gita leaves off. Bhagavad Gita is only 700 verses. It gives us instructions of the ultimate goal, but it does not fully satisfy the heart, like how Srimad-Bhagavatam with its 18,000 verses can. So this is the full exposition. Bhagavad Gita is like the pocket size, it's like pocket size version, and Srimad-Bhagavatam is the full encyclopedia of this topic of transcendence. And this is what Bhagavatam says. If you look at the third last verse of Bhagavatam, it says, I offer, and this is Canto 12. Canto 12, chapter 13, verse 21. I offer my humble obeisances to Sukadeva Gosvami, the best of mystic sages and a personal manifestation of the absolute truth. He saved Maharaj Parikshit, who was bitten by the snake of material existence. So the third last verse of Bhagavatam, it is practically giving us the method of how we can, Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagavad Gita left off, Bhagavad Gita told us to surrender to Krishna, to remember Krishna. But how can that be done? That can only be done if this is done. Surrender to Guru. So therefore, the third last verse of Bhagavatam brings us to the point of Guru surrender, where it teaches us how we should, just like I offer my humble obeisances to Sukadeva Goswami. So surrender to the Guru. And the Guru can save us, just like how Maharaj Parikshit was saved by Sukadeva Goswami. So surrender to Guru is the third last verse of Bhagavatam. And the second last verse of Bhagavatam, O Lords, O Master, please grant us pure devotional service at your lotus feet, life after life. So by surrendering to Guru and following the path of bhakti, by the mercy of Guru, one will come to this platform of this prayer, this kind of prayer, to genuinely mean this kind of prayer at the time of death. So it's a very beautiful prayer. Bhave bhave yata bhaktihi padayostava jayate tatha kurushva devesha natastvam no yata prabho. So we can try to memorize this verse also. O Lord of Lords, O Master, please grant us pure devotional service at your lotus feet, life after life. This is the pure prayer, the pure desire of a devotee. And here we have the very last verse of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the ultimate conclusion. Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Samanastam Namami Harim Param. I offer my respectful obeisances unto that Supreme Lord Hari, the congregational chanting of whose holy names destroys all sinful reactions. So you can see, the ultimate essence of all the Vedas, of all the scriptures, all revealed scriptures, the word of God, ultimately boils down to chanting the holy names of the Lord. Why do we chant the holy names of the Lord? So we can develop this mentality, the second last verse of the Bhagavatam, which is in line with the last two instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, which we discussed just now, about how surrendering to the Lord. And how can this come about? It can come about only by surrender to the Guru. So this is all the beautiful way where if only people take the trouble to understand scripture without false ego and without misinterpretation, then they can understand how extremely clear the word of God is, how clearly it's been given to all the people in this world. So Prabhupada says, for spiritual salvation, there were many prescriptions according to the different modes of different persons. Just like how we have different Puranas in the three different modes. We have some Puranas in the mode of goodness, some Puranas in the mode of passion, like that. But Bhagavatam is Amala Purana. It is transcendental. So like mode of ignorance, we have like Linga Purana, we have Shiva Purana, we have a few other Puranas. I believe Matsya Purana, so Kurma Purana, these are all in the mode of ignorance, meant for the certain class of people. But in them also, there will be nuggets of true knowledge, which is transcendental, nuggets of it, not so much. And then more you will find in the modes of passion, such as Devi Bhagavata Purana, and then Brahmandya Purana, so like that, in the mode of passion. Then we have mode of goodness, such as Vishnu Purana, Garuda Purana, Varaha Purana. So these are there, but transcendental to the three modes is Amala Purana, Srimad-Bhagavatam Amala Purana, which is spotless, beyond the three modes. So therefore Prabhupada says, just as doctors differ, so also sages differ in their different prescriptions. But here we can see the ultimate conclusion. So all of these sages who had differences of opinions, they are all once and for all accepting the authority of Srimad-Bhagavatam spoken by Sukadeva Gosvami, which is about to happen. So we can see that this is the ultimate unifying factor. But the ultimate aim of life is to attain the highest perfectional stage of devotional service to the Lord. So Prabhupada says this. So then in verse 25, so at that moment, while Parikshit Maharaj is glorifying the sages, and then how the sages are prepared to wait with Parikshit Maharaj, and Parikshit Maharaj is asking, please tell me, what is that ultimate duty which I have to do at the time of death? At that time, there appeared Bhagavan Vyasaputro, who traveled over the earth, disinterested and satisfied, tushta with himself. So in that assembly of sages, suddenly at that particular time, walked Sukadeva Goswami. Sukadeva Goswami is called Vyasaputra, the son of Vyasadeva. So Bhagavan Vyasa. So Vyasa is, as we know, Satyavesh incarnation of the Lord. And Bhagavan can also refer to Sukadeva Goswami, because generally Bhagavan means one who is fully very opulent in the 6 qualities. So it can refer sometimes to also to the devotees of the Lord who are very, very opulent in this manner. And here it is also referring to Sukadeva Goswami. He did not manifest any symptoms of belonging to any social order or status of life. So he wasn't disturbed. He wasn't bothered about Varna, Ashram. He was completely transcendental, self-realized, Atmaram. And what to speak of social order, he wasn't even identifying with clothes, with his own body. So he was without any clothes. He was surrounded with women and children, and he dressed as if others had neglected him. So this is just a precursor to show what he's not really dressed at all. And he's being followed by some children and some women because they were simply amazed by this personality, because this personality is walking about. His effulgence is so attractive, and his bodily features are very attractive also, as how we are going to hear. And in this way, it attracted them, and they were just following him out of fascination. Okay, this part. This son of Vyasadeva was only 16 years old. His legs, hands, thighs, arms, shoulders, forehead, and other parts of his body were all delicately formed. Okay, I'm sorry about this. Just a moment. Let me see if I can fix this. Start running. Okay. Okay. Right. His eyes were, so forehead and other parts of his body were all delicately formed. Charu, very beautiful. Sukumara, very delicate. His eyes were beautifully wide, and his nose and ears were highly raised. He had a very attractive face, and his neck was well formed. Sujata. Sujata means well formed and beautiful like a conch shell. So we can learn 2 things from this verse, from Prabhupada's purport. One is a respectable personality is described beginning with the legs. So we can see again how it starts with his legs. The description of a person usually will begin from the feet all the way up, like that. So that's the Vedic way to respectfully receive someone. The second thing we can learn is a person is honored for his achievements and not for advanced age. So this is why the words 16 years old was mentioned here. So Vyasadeva, the son of Vyasadeva, was only 16 years old, but it didn't matter, because here he was walking in just 16 years old, and he was walking into an assembly of sages who were gathering, congregating from all parts of the universe, who are millions of years old. So, and all of them stood up to receive him with respect. So Prabhupada says here, a person is honored for his achievements and not for advanced age. A person can be older by experience and not by age. So one can be, generally in material estimation, respect is given, number one, first of all, to age, one who is older. And then higher than that is given to one who is having position or wealth. Like a teacher. A teacher can be younger, right? But still one gives respect, even more so than age. And even higher than that is one who is a jnani, or the intelligent, one who is he's highly intelligent. So such people are given even higher respect. And even higher than jnana is vijnana, one who has realized that knowledge with wisdom. So such a person transcends not only intelligence, transcends not only position and wealth, and not only obviously age as well. So it is based on one's understanding. So in this way, Prabhupada explains. And then the verses continue to describe his bodily features. His collarbone was fleshy, his chest broad and thick, his navel deep, and his abdomen beautifully striped. His arms were long, and curly hair was strewn over his beautiful face. He was Dik Ambaram. Dig Ambaram means he was dressed in the 10 directions. Dig means direction. Ambaram means dressed. So this is a nice, very cultured way to say that he was practically not wearing anything. He was Dig Ambaram. So to say that you are dressed in the 10 directions is to say that one is naked. And the hue of his body reflected that of Lord Krishna. So very interesting verse here. And it goes on, he was Shamam. So what is the hue of Lord Krishna? The hue of Lord Krishna is Shamam and very beautiful due to his youth. Because of the glamour of his body and his attractive smiles, he was pleasing to women. That's why women were following him, mesmerized. And children were also following him, mesmerized because of his innocence. Though Guda Varchasam, that means though he was hiding, that means nobody could understand his glory. Nobody could understand his greatness. So Guda Varchasam, that means he's hidden, his glories are hidden. However, the great sages present there in the assembly were all Lakshananya. Lakshananyaha means they had knowledge of how to understand bodily features. That means that the knowledge of bodily features is called physiognomy. This is a science, a Vedic science. By simply looking at the shape of the body, of various features, the way the body is formed in different ways, one can divine about their future. One can divine about their quality. One can understand their entire psychology, nature, past, present, and future. So this is one of the sciences. It's called the science of physiognomy. So it's called Lakshana Nyaha. So the great sages were all experts. They were all Nyaha in Lakshana. That means they know how to evaluate the bodily features of a person. So when they saw this, whatever descriptions we just gave on the bodily features of Sukadeva Goswami, they could immediately understand this is a great personality. This is a very, very great personality. Because to have such bodily features in full, all of them together at the same time, is not ordinary. So the great sages present were all Lakshana Nyaha, and so they honored him by rising from their seats. So Prabhupada describes everybody rose except Srila Vyasadeva, who was his father, and except Narada Muni, who was the guru of Srila Vyasadeva, and a few others, like Devala Muni and a few others. Except for them, the rest of them, all of them immediately stood up. So the majority, the vast majority immediately stood up. So, and Sukadeva Goswami also, Prabhupada describes, he also immediately engaged in giving his obeisances to the assembled sages there, especially to Vyasadeva and to Narada Muni. So we can understand the position of Narada Muni and Vyasadeva. So then, receiving Sukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj was sitting there. So he's called Vishnu Ratha, one who is saved by Vishnu. So Vishnu Ratha bowed his head down before him with all the limbs of his body to receive the chief guest, Sukadeva Goswami. So again, here we can hear about how to properly receive an exalted guest. By obeisances, the head on the floor with the full limbs of his body. At that time, all the ignorant women and boys who were following Sukadeva Goswami, they ceased following him because they could suddenly understand, oh, this is a very special assembly. So they were simply following him out of, being glamored over by his effulgence and his beauty. So sometimes this happens. So even in spiritual life, we have people sometimes who simply like to follow guru or simply like to follow certain exalted personalities because they are attractive, because they are very, in some way they are attractive. So they follow them, not because they are trying to get that transcendental nectar from their mouths, but rather simply to be seen with them or to be with them. So that is not the type of assembly which is required for serious spiritual discussion. So as soon as the women and the boys were following, they saw Sukadeva Goswami enter this assembly and they saw the seriousness of the situation. Immediately they left him and they went off. The spell was broken. They became fearful of continuing to follow him. So Prabhupada says, those who were struck with wonder and fear, they retired from their frivolous activities and everything was full of gravity and calm. So this was the setup. This was the situation. So receiving respect from all, Pujita, Sukadeva Goswami took his exalted seat, Mahasani. So it was a great seat, Mahasani, which was prepared, and he sat there, accepting by the blessings of Narada Muni and by the blessings of Vyasadeva. He sat there, and Sukadeva Goswami was then surrounded by saintly sages and demigods, just as the moon is surrounded by stars, planets, and other heavenly bodies. So if one day we can glance up at the moon in a beautiful sky, and we can see it surrounded by millions of stars. So that was how it looked like in the assembly of sages in this banks of the river Yamuna. His presence was gorgeous and he was respected by all. And then this beautiful verse comes. Prasantam ashinam akunta medasham munim nirpo bhagavato abhyupetya pranamya murdna vihvahita kritanjalir natva gira sunrutanyan vaprichat. The sage Sri Sukadeva Goswami sat perfectly pacified, intelligent, and ready to answer any question without hesitation. So it was very serious, very calm, very grave, and proper situation where this Srimad-Bhagavatam was about to be spoken. So you can see here, Prashantam, Ashidam. Prashanta means he was pacified, completely calm, Medasam, intelligent, ready to answer any question without hesitation. The great devotee, Maharaj Parikshit, approached him. So, Nirpa Bhagavato Abhyupetya. So, in this situation, Maharaj Parikshit carefully approached Sukadeva Goswami. Nirpo Bhagavato Abhyupetya. Bhagavato, Maharaj Parikshit is described as Bhagavato, great devotee. That's interesting, isn't it? To understand that a great devotee carefully approached another great devotee, Sukadeva Goswami. And in this way, he started, what did he do? After approaching him, he bowed down his head, pranamya murdana, avahita, properly, very important, very interesting, bowed down his head. Sometimes we do obeisances, we don't do serious obeisances. So we do it one hand. So in the Nectar of Devotion, it says that one who performs one-handed obeisances, it's actually an offense. One should do two-handed obeisances, both hands touching the floor. The bead bag should be kept aside or hung. Shouldn't be one hand in the bead and then obeisances on the floor like that. So properly, avahitaha, bowing down his head, seriously, properly. Krita Anjali, and then with folded hands, which is very respectful, like that. With folded hands like that. Krita Anjali. Natva Gira, with polite words. Sunrataya, in a sweet voice. And then, what did he do? He inquired. Anva Prichat. So this is the correct way on how we should approach the Guru and inquire from him. We mentioned in the Bhagavatam, right? It says the third last instruction of the Bhagavatam was that one should, accept a spiritual master. Bhagavad Gita also 432, Tad Vidhi Pranipratena, Tad Vidhi Praniprashnena, Tad Vidhi Pranipratena, Pariprashnena Sevaya, Upadekshanti Te Jnanam, Jnaninas Tattva Darshina. So one should approach a self-realized person, the Guru, This is the way to understand spiritual knowledge. One must be ready to bow one's head down to him. And here, how do we approach that Guru? How do we inquire? Because Bhagavad Gita tells, it says, right, one should respectfully, humbly submit inquiries upon him. One should serve him. But how does one do it? So Bhagavatam gives the full description. So it says here, bowing the head properly, with folded hands, with polite words, in a sweet voice, then one should inquire. This is the etiquette. This is how one should do it. So Prabhupada says, there is no necessity of approaching a spiritual master unless one is in need of solving the problems of life. One who does not know how to put questions before the spiritual master has no business seeing him. Very important point here. So spiritual master and disciple relationship is a serious relationship. So there are sometimes, people get carried away, they become joking and things like that, which is not correct. So Prabhupada clearly says here, there is no necessity of approaching a spiritual master unless one is in need of solving the problems of life. One who does not know how to put questions before the spiritual master has no business seeing him. So it's not simply to be known, to be seen by him, or, to hang around with him and share the fame and the glory of the spiritual master. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to inquire from the spiritual master seriously, with all seriousness, and to serve him. So only these two. Anything else, it is simply like just now the example of how Sukadeva Goswami was followed by boys and some women who were following him frivolously. So that is the description here. So we don't want to follow that particular example. So then the fortunate King Parikshit said, "O Brahmana, by your mercy, Kripaya, by your Kripaya only, you have sanctified us, making us like unto places of pilgrimage, all by your presence here as Atiti Rupena." So it's a very beautiful verse, this one. This verse continues from the very famous verse where Yudhishthira Maharaj spoke to Vidura. He told Vidura, when Vidura came to visit Hastinapur after the Mahabharata, he told Vidura, you are just like places of pilgrimage. People like you are exactly like walking tirthas, places of pilgrimage. So that particular verse is again described in a different way. So here Sukadeva Goswami is being described by Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj is telling Sukadeva Goswami, "Oh, you, only by your mercy, you are sanctifying us. You are making us into places of pilgrimage simply by your presence and by your mercy." So all of your presence here and all this is simply by you coming and seeing us as if you are a guest. So in this way, you are giving your costless mercy. So Parikshit is saying here, by your kripa, we who are Kshatriya Bandhavas become eligible to serve the devotee. Kshatriya Bandhavas means the royal order. So, but Parikshit Maharaj is taking a very humble stance. So, although he was the king of the world, you see the humility of Parikshit. So, one shouldn't be we can take this example very nicely. So, in front of the Guru, we have no business glorifying ourselves in any way, whether it is material or spiritual. Even if we have any material quality, we have no business in glorifying it. That is terrible etiquette. Sometimes people do that, which is basically due to ignorance. So Parikshit, we can take the example of these exalted devotees. So one should always remain a fool in front of the spiritual master. And in this way, Parikshit Maharaj is taking that example. So he's calling himself Kshatriya Bandhavas. That is an insult. He's calling himself a very low person. Kshatriya Bandhavas means he's not even acknowledging himself as a great as a great king. He is saying, we have heard of the word Dvija Bandhu. Dvija Bandhu means friend of the Brahmana, right? It means one who is supposed to be a Brahmana, but who's not quite cut it. He's not quite having the quality of a Brahmana. So therefore, he's called Dvija Bandhu. Like Ashwatthama was called Dvija Bandhu. And here he's calling himself Shatra Bandhavas. Shatra Bandhavas is like Dvija Bandhu, but he's saying, I'm like the friend of the Kshatriya. I'm the friend of royalty. So he's saying, I'm like royalty, but I don't have quite the qualities of royalty. So he's taking a very humble stance. And he's saying, by your kripa only that we have become eligible to serve the devotees, because to serve pure devotees, usually devotees, they stay away from materialistic people. Just like we have the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he completely stayed away from Maharaj Paratapa Rudra in Jagannath Puri because he was a king, and sannyasis, devotees, the mendicants, the saintly personalities or renounced, they have nothing to do with great materialistic people. But still, and Maharaj Parikshit is taking that stance. He's saying, you know, usually we royal people or friends of royal people, we don't have a chance to serve great devotees such as you. But because you have somehow come by your grace like a guest, I am somehow so blessed that I have become like a place of pilgrimage. All these personalities have come here by your grace alone. So this is a very sweet way of addressing the Guru, of glorifying the Guru. Yesham sammaranatum sham sadhya sudhyanti vaigraha kim punardarshana sparsa pada sauchasanadibihi. So therefore he continues, simply by our remembering you, our houses become instantly sanctified. So this is the mercy of those pure devotees who don't really need to come to our houses or our homes, but they come simply to purify our homes and to give us a chance, give the chance to the materialistic people who are busy in household life to get in touch with transcendence. So it is by their grace. So they are like the moving tirthas who come door to door, simply giving us agyata sukriti, a chance to serve them, a chance to hear from them in some way so that we can be benefited. And then he says, and what to speak of seeing you, touching you, washing your holy feet and offering you a seat in our home. So Parikshit Maharaj is appropriately appreciating the great boon of having a great personality right in front of him. So he says, simply remembering you, we become sanctified. What to speak of directly seeing you, directly touching you, directly washing your feet, and directly offering you a seat in our home. So this is the mentality of Parikshit Maharaj, who was a very serious devotee. So examples are here also, like Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami. So these are mendicants. They don't need anything. Krishna supplies everything for them. But yet still they go begging door to door, Madhukari. And by this begging, it's not that they need something. They are begging because they are trying to give their agyata sukriti to those grahastas who are caught up in materialistic life. So it is their kripa, their mercy. So we have to understand that way. So Prabhupada says, it is said that sinful persons go to the holy places and leave their sins there to accumulate. But the presence of the great saints disinfects the accumulated sins, and thus the holy places continue to remain sanctified simply by the grace of the devotees and saints present there. So Prabhupada says holy places, tirthas, like, Avantipuri or Varanasi and all these places, they're all holy places. What happens? Sinful people go there and they take bath and everything, and they leave their sins there in these holy places. And it is said, because the presence of great saints, because saintly people also go to these holy places, they reside there, by their presence only, these holy places, they become disinfected, they become cleansed. So such a glorification is given Even greater than the tirtha is the walking tirtha, the living, breathing, walking tirtha, which is the devotees of the Lord. So that is the glorification of such saintly people. The only aim of such saints is to sanctify the houses of the householders, and the householders therefore should feel grateful when such saints and sages appear at their doors. Just like how we can see Maharaj Parikshit is showing. So here we can see a very beautiful interaction between one who is perfectly fit to receive transcendental knowledge, and also between one who is perfectly fit to give transcendental knowledge. So in such a situation, the interaction becomes super fruitful, and one instantly becomes purified and achieves the goal of life. The audience as well as the speaker, when both are supremely qualified, then the entire area becomes worshipable. The entire conversation becomes worshipable. So this verse comes, Sanidhyate mahayogin patakani mahanti api sadhyo nasyanti vaipumsam vishnu eva suretaraha. Just as the atheist cannot remain in the presence of the personality of Godhead, so also the invulnerable sins of a man are immediately vanquished in your presence, O saint, O great mystic. So very beautifully, again glorifying that invulnerable sins, pahatakani mahanti, great invulnerable sins, they become destroyed simply by your presence. So this is a wonderful glorification of a pure devotee of the Lord. And then Prabhupada gives his purport. As soon as the personality of Godhead appears, by either his transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, paraphernalia, or variegatedness, the demon is at once vanquished. So we see in many situations, leelas, different leelas, the demon can be very powerful. No matter how great, how powerful, even Brahma cannot defeat, even Shiva cannot defeat. Bhuma Devi is in great distress. All the great personalities, the Devatas, they come and beg the Lord. But as soon as the Lord comes, no matter how great the demon, the greatest demons in history, Sankachuda, Vrikasura, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, these are all great demons, they all became conquered. They all were defeated as soon as the Lord is present. So in the same way, right, Prabhupada says, it is said that a ghost cannot remain as soon as the holy name of the Lord is chanted. So this is very important point. The great saints and devotees of the Lord are in the list of his paraphernalia. Can't read this part. Never mind. So basically, Prabhupada is saying that these, simply by their attributes, simply by their presence and by their blessings, all the great sins will fly away from our consciousness. So this is basically the purport of this verse. And then, again, Bhagavan Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is very priya to Pandu Sutta. So the verse continues, he says, Bhagavan Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, Parikshit Maharaj tells Sukadeva Goswami, the supreme Lord Krishna, who is so dear to the, who considers the Pandavas very dear to him, has accepted me as one of those relatives just to please his great cousins and brothers. So Parikshit Maharaj is taking a very humble stance here again. He is directly related to Krishna because, Kunti Maharani is Krishna's auntie. So, and Parikshit Maharaj is born as a grandson of Kunti Maharani, right? Born to Arjuna's son, Abhimanyu. And here he's saying that simply not because of me, it's simply because the Pandavas are so dear to Krishna that in this way I am related to the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord has allowed me to become related to him simply to please the Pandavas. So he's completely giving up all sense of ego or feeling of any kind of attachment to his material connection. So this is another important point. The moment we enter into spiritual life, the moment we enter into the temple, the moment we see devotees, the moment we enter into devotee circles, we should keep away, just like we keep our slippers. When we enter the temple, we keep our slippers at the door. So in the same way, we keep our material designations, our material understandings, our material glory, or whatever it is, we park it at the door. And then we enter and mingle with the devotees. So this is what Parikshit Maharaj is showing. So Prabhupada says, deluded persons have no information that one can render better service to the family by becoming a devotee of the Lord. So for every one of us who are anxious about our family members, if we feel there are some family members we are anxious about, so Prabhupada says, don't worry. The Lord gives special protection to the family members and descendants of a devotee, even though such members are themselves non-devotees. So the best thing one can do for our family members, we don't have to, we don't have to donate cows, do charity. Of course, those are all good. We can do them, but they are sukarma. They are not transcendental. The ultimate, by far, the greatest thing one can do is to practice devotional service. Simply by dint of doing that, automatically, the family members are benefited. Much, 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 much more compared to doing any other sukarma or pious activity. So the Lord is so kind that he gives all protection to the family members of his devotee. And thus the devotee has no need to bother about his family members in terms of, punya karma and all that. Even if one leaves such family members aside to discharge devotional service. So even if one completely leaves them, like take sannyas and all that, the Lord they are completely benefited. So here is showing there's examples, just like Draupadi. Draupadi had the best of husbands to protect her, but the situation was such that none of them could protect her. So, and who protected her? It was the Lord directly who protected her. So Arjuna, Yudhishthira, all these people were great devotees of Krishna, and automatically the family members were protected. Right? So therefore we can see, and here another example, the lifting of the Govardhan hill, how all of them were protected by the mercy of the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj is another example, how Hiranyakashipu is also protected by the grace of Nrsimhadev. And then comes this verse, otherwise, without being inspired by Krishna, how is it that you have voluntarily appeared here? So Parikshit Maharaj is saying, how could you have come here if not inspired by Krishna? Though you are moving incognito to the common man, though nobody knows your glories, and you're not visible to the common man, who are mriyamanam, on the verge of death. So the normal common persons who are on the verge of death, they are ignorant of your glories, of your personality. But by the mercy of Krishna, so see how wonderful Krishna is, see how merciful Krishna is, that simply because of my connection to the Pandavas, Krishna has sent you directly to me at the time of my death. So this is the greatest benediction one can have. If we are dying at the time of our death, if we are visited by great personalities or devotees, then that is the greatest benediction that we can have. So then Prabhupada says, one can achieve the nucleus of the devotional service of the Lord by the mercy of the spiritual master. So we can understand the main point of devotional service, the nucleus of devotional service, the heart of devotional service can be understood only by the mercy of the spiritual master. and the personality of Godhead. So both are needed. Damodar Leela, Utsah, the two fingers indicates endeavor as well as mercy. Both need to be there. By our endeavor, we attract the mercy of Krishna. And by the mercy of Krishna, we get Guru. And by the mercy of Guru, we get Krishna. So it's a cycle. The spiritual master is the manifested representative of the Lord to help one achieve ultimate success. So if we are saying, Krishna help me, Krishna help me, Krishna help me, Krishna helps him, Krishna manifests himself as the Guru, as the representative. That's why the Guru is known like the diplomat. Like the diplomat is like the king of the country, isn't it? If we have a diplomat here, he is respected as if he is like the king of that country. So the spiritual master is the bona fide representative of the Lord, the diplomat of the Lord. And by his mercy, we are saved. So we have to see, if we are so lucky to have a guru who is from the bona fide sampradaya, that means Krishna himself has seen our desire to take up spiritual life seriously, and he has personally reciprocated by giving us Guru. So this is how we should understand. This is a personal reciprocation of the Lord, the very fact that if we have Guru. So this is what Prabhupada says. So Prabhupada says, as soon as a true representative of the Lord is met by a devotee of the Lord, the devotee is assured a guarantee for going back to Godhead. So ticket is there as soon as we get Guru, bona fide Guru. But if we lose the ticket or if we spoil the ticket, that's our fault. So therefore, this, however, depends on the sincerity of the devotee himself. So how carefully do we take care of the ticket? So this is the sincerity. We promise at the time of initiation to chant 16 rounds. So therefore, this is where the sincerity is measured. And the 4 regulative principles, of course. So the Lord is, we cannot cheat the Lord because the Lord is situated in our hearts. And he is witnessing as Paramatma, our sincerity. He is measuring our sincerity. And accordingly, we will get Krishna. The conclusion is that to get the assistance and help of a bona fide spiritual master means to receive the direct help of the Lord himself. So this is the very important point. You can understand that the Lord himself has directly helped us simply by getting the grace of the Guru. Last 3 verses more to go. It's up to 40 if you just wait for another 5 minutes. You are yoginam paramam gurum. I am therefore begging, prichami. So he says, you are yoginam paramam gurum. You are the greatest amongst all the gurus. I am therefore begging, prachami samsiddhim. So this is the correct attitude of a devotee. You to show the way of perfection for all persons, and especially for Muriya Manasya, that means one who is about to die. So this is the setting of the Bhagavatam. We can understand the exaltedness of this Bhagavatam scripture based on the audience, based on the circumstance, and based on the speaker. No other scripture in the world, in the universe, is of even approaching a similar setting. So this is the unique way, head and shoulders much above any other scripture. This is the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada says, a spiritual master is not a kind of decoration for a householder. It's not a fashion statement. Guru, everybody has a guru. Let me have a fashionable guru. Generally, a fashionable materialist engages in so-called spiritual master without any profit. He doesn't get anything out of him because they don't understand what is the real commodity the spiritual master can give us. The pseudo-spiritual master flatters the so-called disciple, and thereby both the master and his ward go to hell without a doubt. So this is the cheating gurus, the cheater and the cheated. If one wants to be cheated, then there is no dearth of cheaters around which are available. But if one is sincere, then Krishna will give that guru to us. Yat chrotavyam ato japyam yat kartavyam nirbhihi prabhu smartavyam bhajaniyam va bruhi yat va viparyayam. Please let me know what a man should hear, chant, remember, and worship, and also what he should not do. Please explain all this to me. Very important verse. This is the type of the line of questioning we should have when we are interested in real spiritual knowledge. O Bhagavato Brahman, it is said that you hardly stay in houses of men long enough to milk a cow. So he's trying to say, Parikshit Maharaj is saying, your darshan is so rare. You are saintly personalities who have renounced of everything. So you will not remain long with us. So this is to understand that if we get access to a pure devotee, we should relish every single moment, not simply because he's flattering us and oh, you're so nice, oh, your cookies are so tasty. Not because of that. It's because of we should relish the instructions of the Guru. So that is the important point here. So, O Bhagavato Brahman, it is said that you hardly stay in the houses of men long enough to milk a cow. So therefore, Prabhupada says, it is the duty of householders to maintain the saints and sages like children. So a cow is used because, cow gives milk. So the nutrition is given. And saints, they usually just live on milk. They don't take anything else generally. Very simple food. And something which is available in every household. So this is what we need to do as householders to maintain these saints, not because they are in need, but because this is the real system. By doing this, we actually get blessings. So this is the last verse. Suta Uvacha, the king thus spoke and questioned the sage, using sweet words, Slakshnaya Gira, sweet words. Then Dharmanya Bhagavan Bhadrayani began his reply. Then, after all this, Sukadeva Goswami, who is known as Badaranayana, that means the son of Vyasadeva, Bhagavan Badarayanahi, because Vyasadeva is also known as Badrayana, and he is also called Dharmanya, that means one who knows the knowledge of Dharma. And here it's referring to the supreme knowledge, which was put forward by Parikshit Maharaj in the beginning. So he is the knower of that supreme knowledge. And he began his reply. And thus began the conversation between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj, which forms the bulk of the Bhagavatam from Canto 2 all the way to Canto 12. And thus we end chapter 19, the appearance of Sukadeva Goswami. So here we have completed how Maharaj Parikshit prepares for death. The sages congregate and receive by Maharaj Parikshit. How Maharaj Parikshit takes blessings of the sages. And we also today, we talked about how Maharaj Parikshit's inquiry and Sukadeva Goswami's fortuitous arrival. And Maharaj Parikshit receives, how he receives Sukadeva Goswami, how one receives such a great personality and makes the ultimate inquiry. So with that, it ends the first canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. So these are all the topics, all the chapters in the first canto of Bhagavatam. From chapter 1 to 19, we spent about almost 2 years, I think, ever since COVID started. So the questions of the sages and all that. So it began with basically questions of the sages, asking 6 questions. So, and then the 6 questions are, what is the absolute ultimate good for everyone? So we have heard that along. Ultimately, the pure devotional service to the Lord, remembering the names, pastimes, activities, the qualities of the Lord is the ultimate good for everyone, performing devotional service. What is the essence of all the Vedic literatures? The essence of the Vedic literatures is to understand the names, pastimes, glories of the Lord. And this is described in the Srimad-Bhagavatam and in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of the Vedic literatures themselves. Why did Lord Krishna appear himself? So that was discussed in the first few chapters in the Bhagavatam. Please tell us the purpose of the 10 incarnations of Godhead, also described in the first 3 or 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5 chapters like that. Please describe the pastimes of Lord Krishna. So here and there, many pastimes were discussed. How Krishna entered Dwaraka, how Krishna left the Pandavas. So all these aspects were discussed. And then the speakers were discussed. Sukadeva Gosvami and Parikshit Maharaj. Where has religion taken shelter now that Krishna has left the world? So now that Krishna has left the world and Kali Yuga has begun, religion has taken shelter in Srimad-Bhagavatam, which has arisen like the sun, dissipating the darkness of Kali Yuga, which was one of the verses we spoke in the beginning chapters of Bhagavatam. So chapters 1 to 6 basically introduces the history of Srimad-Bhagavatam, how Srimad-Bhagavatam came about. We heard about the questions of the sages. We heard about how Vyasadeva, after writing the entire Vedic literatures, he was dissatisfied, and how Narada Muni came, and how Narada Muni instructed Vyasadeva to now finally write the cream, the Bhagavatam, the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And then from there, the narration began from chapter 7 onwards, leading to the point how Parikshit Maharaj came to his situation of where Bhagavatam was spoken to him. So it began with the son of Drona, Ashwatthama, being punished, how Ashwatthama sent the Brahmastra, and then the Brahmastra was supposed to kill the child in the womb, who was Parikshit. So here enter Parikshit. And then the story of Parikshit Maharaj and everything, and then it led to one thing to another. While describing all these things, Sukadeva Goswami took advantage to speak about the pastimes of Krishna. So we heard about various aspects of Krishna, and then finally came back to chapter 16, how Parikshit Maharaj received the age of Kali, how the Pandavas retired, how Parikshit Maharaj was enthroned, how he received the age of Kali, and how he became cursed. And then finally the appearance of Sukadeva Goswami, the speaker of the Bhagavatam. So both the listener and the speaker were described. So this ends the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1. Okay, so thank you very much. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripasindhibheva patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad-Bhagavatam ki. Thank you. So we have ended this canto. So any questions from anybody before we close?
So, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
So we'll be starting Canto 2 the next session. Huh? How long will that take? How long will it take?
Yes, next session. I'm not sure. I'll have to see.
Why, Prabhu?
Well,
Yeah, you're not going to do?
Okay, well, I can, I suppose. I was thinking I'll probably take a bit of a break to because to prepare this, I was thinking I wanted to refine the first canto first a bit. But I suppose we can do that. Maybe we'll start after 1 month break or so. Will that be fine?
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. So I hope we can all start reading also the Bhagavatam, and together like this we can discuss further. Canto 2 is very interesting. It goes deeper. It goes deeper into the aspect of devotional life. So the understanding devotional service, going beyond, and then it begins the full discussion about understanding every aspect about the Supreme Lord. So Canto 1 and Canto 2 are known as the feet of Krishna. So before we see the face of Krishna, we have to first take darshan of the feet of Krishna. So by properly understanding Canto 1 and Canto 2, then our devotional service will really begin. So that's why, even before initiation, they tell us to read the at least the first canto, because Prabhupada spent a lot of time on it. These first 3 cantos of Bhagavatam, Prabhupada actually sat in his Radha Damodar temple before he left for the West, and he poured his entire purports fully in great contemplation and great detail. So a lot of information is there. So a thorough study of these 3 cantos will be very, very useful. Okay, so I don't want to take too much more time. Thank you so much for everyone. This has been a great journey. I have, with this reciting of the Bhagavatam, I've learned a lot. I've actually scrutinizedly gone through the verses but in order to present. So that really has helped me so much. So I hope everyone also is able to appreciate the Bhagavatam in this way.
Yes, Prabhu, definitely.
Okay. All right.
Definitely.
Yes, Prabhu, definitely. Your slide is wonderful.
Yeah.
Looking forward for your class, the slide. Like, yeah, you really get into the head when see the slide and listening.
Okay. Thank you so much for your encouragement, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Bo, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Bo.